5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Diary of a Kidney Warrior. Sharing faith, knowledge, hope, and love.
Hi and welcome to Diary of a Kidney Warrior podcast. My name is Dee Moore and I am a stage 4 kidney warrior. This podcast is dedicated to encourage, educate and inspire as we explore all aspects of kidney disease, chronic illnesses and health. If you have any questions or ideas for future topics you would like me to cover, please do get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter using the handle Diary of a Kidney Warrior. Today's episode is the first part of a series where we're going to look in depth about kidney disease. In part 1, we are looking at what kidney disease is and what causes it. My guest today is the vivacious lead chronic kidney disease nurse, Pat Simoyi. Pat has been working in the kidney speciality for over 33 years, working in pre-dialysis, dialysis, transplantation and conservative management. Pat was nominated as an Unsung Hero of the NHS in 2000 and was nominated in the Queen's New Year list in 2019. Pat has a passion for early detection and early management of chronic kidney disease and strongly believes it is possible to reduce the numbers of people who access kidney replacement treatments unnecessarily by being vigilant at primary care level. Hi and welcome to Diary of a Kidney Warrior podcast. How are you doing today, Pat?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And thank you very much for inviting you to your podcast.
And thank you so much. I mean, I was reflecting on the very first time I met you and I saw your presentation on the World Kidney Day, and it was amazing. And there were so many gems that I took from that presentation. I learned so much that, you know, I wanted the listeners to hear and to learn from. And one of the powerful things that you said that day for me was that the kidneys don't shout. If you don't look for it, you don't see it. And so I'm reminded that, you know, for many people, they might not have any symptoms when it comes to kidney disease. And so by the time they find out, it's a massive shock. And so this is why I wanted to speak to yourself and to get as much information to empower people as possible. And I wanted to start from the foundation, really, because we talk a lot about being a kidney warrior and we talk about kidney disease, but I think we need to kind of start from the absolute basics and get an understanding of, well, what is kidney disease and what causes it? So that's going to be my first question. What is kidney disease?
Thank you for asking me that question, because that's what I try to do every day, to try and explain to people what kidney disease is. And for people to understand, like you just said, that when the kidneys are affected, they don't always shout. By the time that they show symptoms, they are very, very advanced. And sometimes you can't actually reverse them. So I'm going to be going over what kidney disease is. It is a condition of the kidneys. It could happen with a normal functioning kidney, but there is something not right inside there, which if left alone, will worsen the condition of the kidney. For example, you have people with genetic conditions who are born with cysts in their kidneys, or who have something like some people are born with kidneys that are joined together, what they call horseshoe kidneys. They could actually have a normal function if you were to check them in the laboratory. But there is a risk there that the kidney will get worse. This is why we stage kidneys in stages. Kidney disease is expressed in stages. I will talk about that as we go on. So if you got damage to your kidney, which could be either you are losing protein, but your kidney function is fine. But the fact that you are losing protein in your kidneys will actually put your kidney at risk of damage, of further damage. You could be hypertensive, but have a normal kidney function. And when I say hypertensive, I mean high blood pressure. Normal kidney function is expressed as a filtering rate of 90 and above. And when I talk about the levels, the levels of kidney function, which I will explain, because everybody talks about, you are in stage 3, or you are in stage 2. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try and explain that. So you could be in stage 1, which is a normal kidney. But if you are very hypertensive and you've got blood pressure and you've got family history, we have to sort of say stage 1, because somebody has to monitor you. So stage 1 is just to remind the people who look after you that you've got something that needs to be monitored. You monitor that. One of them is protein loss. We shouldn't be losing a lot of protein in your kidneys, because that damages the kidney. You shouldn't have a high blood pressure, because that damages the kidney. If you have uncontrolled diabetes, that damages the kidney. I've just talked about family problems that cause kidney disease. I'll talk about them as well. That needs to be monitored, so that the kidneys are monitored and preserved. So kidney problems, kidney disease could be with a normal kidney function, but the person is at risk of developing kidney disease. That's stage 1. So 90, we express this as mils per minute and above to about 120. That's normal kidney function. But if you have like a protein loss, high blood pressure, and also, then you are in stage 1, because somebody needs to monitor you. Does that make sense?
So you have 100% kidney function, but because you've got high blood pressure or diabetes,
or
protein leaking from into your kidneys, then
it actually is leaking into your urine.
Okay. So the protein is leaking into your urine. Then this is putting your kidneys at risk, and so that needs to be monitored. So at that point in time, your kidney function is normal, but because of those factors, it could damage your kidneys.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you need to be managed, and you won't have any symptoms at all to do with kidney damage.
Right.
This is where the not doubting bit is.
Right.
This is why we say kidneys don't shout. If you don't do anything with them, you won't know where they are. Okay. Now, talking about the classification again, if you are in stage 2, we call it G2. We say G1, G2 now, because we are using global classification. A long time ago, England had theirs, Scotland had theirs, Australia had theirs, South Africa had theirs, but nowadays we use 1. Okay. Today, if I was sending somebody to Moscow and say, I'm sending somebody to your hospital and they are in G1, they know that the kidney function is normal, is 90 and above, but there's something that they need to look at. There's a risk there that they need to monitor and manage.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that because someone is in G1, they don't need to keep their clinical appointments. They still need to, for it to be maintained at G1.
Right.
For it to be slowed down so that it doesn't rapidly decline to G2, G3, and down. Okay?
Right.
So the other thing that we do nowadays, before I move off from the classification from G1, is we also need to know if it's protein, how much protein that person is losing as well at that level. If your worry is about protein, how much are they losing? So if I say G1, which means your kidney function is normal, but there's an A1. A1 is protein loss, is albumin-creatinine ratio. If it's 1, it means it's normal. So if Russia or wherever I'm sending someone to, we're going to make a clinic appointment, they can do it in 4 months' time, or they can do it in 3 months' time. There's no urgency. There's no hurry. They will still see that person, but there's no agency. Okay. But if it was G1 and A3, which is the highest, it means they are losing a lot of protein.
Right.
They need to be seen as quick as possible and be managed as quick as possible.
Okay. So someone could have normal kidney function, but they're leaking a lot of protein, which means that it's a high priority for them to be seen to make sure that their kidney function doesn't decline further.
Yes,
right.
That is very important. Then we can go to G2. G2 will be actually a kidney function of 60 to about 89 mils a minute. And that, again, is not too bad, especially for someone who is much older, who's an old person. As long as it's not showing a trend of declining all the time, because actually, if you come to my clinic, I will sort of say today, maybe you are 75 mils a minute. If you come again next time, if you come as 50 mils a minute, then I'm worried.
Right.
That trend, that graph, how it is coming down matters. So we always look at trend. So if it's 60 to 89 and is stable, that's fine. We need to actually manage that person's blood pressure, manage their protein loss, manage whatever. But we still need to know the A. We need to know how much protein they are losing. Because protein sometimes is one that makes us suspicious that people could have, those conditions like lupus, like membranous, which are autoimmune conditions. That is how we know. That's how we become suspicious. And then we biopsy people if somebody's losing a lot of protein. That's why it's so important. And then you put them on the right medication and somebody gets better then. I don't know whether that's making sense, Dee.
Yes, I also just wanted to...
Is that making sense?
Oh, yes. I wanted to rewind slightly. So when you're saying mils per minute, what does that mean, just to explain to the listeners?
Your kidney, if we say a normal functioning kidney, if you are sitting there doing your own thing, getting on with your business, your kidney is handling 90 to 120 mils a minute to clean your blood while you're sitting there. That's how big your kidneys are.
That's
now
that's a lot, isn't it? 90 to 100 milliliters a minute.
Yes.
Wow.
If you the hospital cup of that little plastic cup, the hospital cup.
Yes.
It's about 100 mils.
Wow. So they're doing a very high rate job then, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. The kidneys work very, very, very hard. And this is why when they stop working, then you become unwell. Because your kidneys are doing so much. So your kidneys are handling 90 to 120 mils a minute as you are sitting down, if you've got your normal kidneys working properly, and that's how they are. But they shouldn't be losing too much protein. They shouldn't be they shouldn't be very hypertensive, because it forces them to push more out, which is not a good thing, because it overworks it. A high diabetes, a high HbA1c in diabetes also does the same thing. Any blockages or whatever does the same thing. So you end up pushing out protein. Protein is too big a particle to come out of the kidney filters. It damages the filters.
Right.
So that's why we don't want it there.
Okay.
And this is also, they've discovered in the studies that if somebody's losing a lot of protein, they are the ones who very quickly get to needing dialysis.
Right. So the higher the protein, the more damage, and the closer you get to dialysis.
The higher the risk for you to get to dialysis.
Right.
So we need to minimize that in our plan of care. We need to ensure that at least we do everything. And one of those, what we do is to control the HbA1c, then if you're diabetic, and it's also to control the blood pressure. If somebody was, it was because the blood pressure. If it was an autoimmune condition, then we make sure that also that person is on the right medication to prevent that.
Right.
Okay. So then you go down to 45 to 59. That's G3. But G3 has got either A1 or A2 or A3.
Okay,
which is protein loss. And if you look at the chart of the classification, if you look at for chronic kidney disease classification on the internet, the border, the colors, the higher the risk of developing either kidney disease or heart disease. Because what you find is if you treat kidney disease well, you also prevent the risk of heart disease. If you also treat diabetes well, you actually minimize the risk of getting complications of diabetes and actually heart disease as well. There's a complication.
I think we need to say that again for the listeners.
Yes.
So
what I say, yes, if you look at the way we treat diabetes also and kidney disease, if you look after kidney disease well, which is by you control the blood pressure well, you control the diabetes well, or you control whatever is the cause of the kidney damage, which I will talk about in a minute, you also reduce the risks of that person having heart disease. You are always trying to reduce the risks of cardiovascular disease. For example, anemia is one of those things that can cause you to have heart problems because you start having palpitations and things like that. And we are always checking people's full blood counts when they come to clinic. All those bottles we take of blood are trying to check on all those things to prevent, to reduce and minimize the risks of developing complications. And the one very big one is heart disease.
So you heard it there, listeners.
I hope they are. So this is why where I work in early detection and early management of kidney disease. So if you detect it early, you have to look for it, remember. Everybody who has a blood test in England, they have their kidney function reported. If you ask your GP, what is my kidney function, they will tell you. Okay, everybody, every single person. But what I want people to remember is kidney, the classifications, the levels are not equal in everybody. You don't expect like a 70-year-old person to have a kidney function of 90 to 120. Okay. They won't have, because as you get to about 30 or 40, you lose 1 ml per minute a year of your kidney function due to aging processes, due just to getting old.
So just by, so that's just completely normal. When you get to the age of 30 to 40, you lose 1 ml per minute every year.
Yes, this is why you find if a year-old goes to a GP or to a kidney person and they say, I've been sent by whoever to say my kidney function is 60. Then yes, the kidney person will look at the trend. What was it before? And if it was fine, if it was 61 last year and it was higher than that last year before, and you are just losing by 1, then it's not going to worry anybody because that's normal.
Right.
Okay. So it's just to remember that actually age-wise, a 60-year-old with a GFR of 60. With GFR is glomerular filtration rate, which is the 90 to 120 mils a minute. That is what it is called. So glomerular filtration rate is GFR. Sometimes we say eGFR because it's estimated. We use numbers. We use your creatinine levels. We use your age. We use your ethnicity as well to calculate it. So the E just stands for estimated glomerular filtration rate. So if you are 60 and it's 60, you are fine. If you are 60 and it was 70 last month and it was like 80 last month and it's coming down, then there's something not right. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you always need more than one record to make a decision.
Right.
Yeah, you need to compare. So we were at G3 and now you know that there's A as well, and that A should be honored. And you also know that somebody is 60 and their GFR is 60, they are normal because you lose 1 ml a minute every year through age. Again, if you G4 is from 30 to 44 and G3 B, is 45 to 50. What am I reading? It's 30 to 44 is G3B. So G3A, there's G3A, G3B. G3A is 45 to 59. G3B is 30 to 34. But G4, which is 50 15 to 29, you should be under the care of a nephrology person.
Right.
Which is
where I am, G4.
Yes. You need to have somebody, because then your symptoms will be more intense. And they really need somebody who understands the condition to look at you and manage it. Mostly because you don't just look at one thing when you are looking at kidney results. Mm-hmm. You are looking at one and you are looking at another. You are bringing them together and you make a decision. And so you need to be doing the right tests to start with, which are known by the nephrologist, and you need to follow them up properly. Plus also, they tend to use the most recent, the most current evidence-based medicines. They do. I know that. I work there with them. So they are the ones to keep up with what is coming next, what is the new thing, which is controlling what, and they use that. I've come across people who are started, especially on like ACE inhibitors, tablets, which are given to people to protect the kidney and to protect the heart, because it actually improves the circulation and all. Tablets like Prils, Ramipril, Lisinopril, they also actually reduce your protein loss. And nowadays as well, if somebody was diabetic, there are gluflosins, tablets which end up with gluflosin, which are like dapagliflozin or empagliflozin or canagliflozin. They also reduce protein loss. So sometimes they give you those on top of whatever you've got, and people would carry them in their bag. They don't take them until they meet somebody. Why was I given these ones? That's what did they say? Oh, they were talking about something. And you know that somebody says something, but people just don't want to take the medication. But we try by all means to give you the most recent tablets, and also some tablets are for preventative purposes, for protective purposes, for protecting damage to your kidney and protecting damage to your heart. Right. We don't wait for things to happen first. So when you get to about G5, then we'll be talking about dialysis and everything else. So what then happens for the kidney to fail, for somebody to go into these Gs, is either because they have got kidney diabetes, which I've talked about already. 40% of people with type 2 diabetes, they end up on dialysis.
40% of type 2 diabetes patients end up on dialysis?
Yes. They tend to want to say 40%, but it's still 40% of people with diabetes. But of all of them, they end up with not end up on dialysis, they end up with kidney disease.
Right.
Yes.
So 40%, let me correct that then. So 40% of diabetes patients end up with kidney disease.
Yes. But it's not all of them. I think about 10% or so end up on dialysis. A lot of them are caught up with the heart disease and everything else, and they complicate and they just lose their lives that way.
Wow. That's
so which brings a role as somebody who does early detection and early management. Because if you detect that kidney disease, if you also detect diabetes that early, because you're doing dipsticks, if you pick up some protein, you also can pick up some sugar as well in somebody's urine. You can then have that person managed early and all those complications prevented.
Right.
And then somebody can have a quality of life and they can have a longer period before they can get to dialysis. And hopefully some people won't get to be affected by this 40%.
So the early detection of diabetes then is very important for prevention.
Yes, and also kidney disease is very important. People with high blood pressure also have suffer from kidney disease. And those people, again, are supposed to, when they go for their yearly checks, just like with the diabetics, when they go for their yearly checks, they're supposed to take a sample of urine, which should be checked, either dipsticked or sent out to just check on whether there's protein in that urine, because that's the only way kidneys show that I'm not happy here.
Is with the urine test.
Yes, life isn't good when it starts leaking protein in diabetics and people with high blood pressure. But what I find is people go this, I forgot. And people are busy. They won't say, "Oh, I want you to do sample before you go." So I'll get it next time.
Right.
And next time,
So the urine test is something very important that you shouldn't skip.
Yes, and what I say to because I teach all the diabetics that are newly diagnosed. My trust actually invites the kidney people as well to come and talk to them, and we tell them that it is your responsibility to take a sample with you, because what they will do is then they will choose the right tablets when they found that there's protein in someone's urine. They will repeat that sample, and they will put that person on the right medication for them to monitor to prevent excessive loss of the protein, which we know already that if you are losing a lot of protein, you accelerate your kidney damage and you end up on dialysis prematurely.
Right. So the management of the protein leak is essential.
Is important, absolutely. And I want it to be a responsibility for the patients.
Right.
We are busy. I work in the NHS too. We are very, very busy. And reminding you all the time, have you brought a sample of urine? No, all the time. No. It is your responsibility. You want to be managed as a whole, and that's how you can do it.
Right.
Get involved. So the other thing, blood pressure wise, we want the blood pressure to be maintained 140/80. The normal blood pressure control should be 140/80. But if somebody was diabetic and they are losing protein, it should be below 130/80.
Okay.
Okay.
So 140/80, 140/80 is normal.
Yes, for everyone. If they are on treatment for high blood pressure.
Okay.
But if they are losing protein and they are also diabetic, we want it lower, 130.
Okay.
Over 80. And it's nice to be involved. Nowadays, we encourage people to have their blood pressures done at home, to just monitor it at home and bring the results in. Because you are chilled out at home, you are not worried about anything. You don't have that white coat syndrome when you come in where you said, "Oh my God, the doctors again. I wonder what they're going to talk about today." You are not having that. So if you come with what you would do at home, and we also do something when you come into the hospital or into the clinic, then we can compare. But mostly we go by what it is at home, because that is a better reflection to what your blood pressure is.
So you're encouraging patients to measure your blood pressure at home because you're more relaxed at home. There's less stress at home. You're going to get a more normal and accurate reading than when you go to the hospital. Then I don't know. You've taken ages to find a parking space, or you're walking to the appointment. You're stressing over getting there on time. All those factors are removed because you're at home. You're in your natural environment, and your blood pressure reading is going to be more accurate. So you'd encourage people to buy a home blood pressure kit, and
the type that the Hypertensive Society recommends is called the Omron, the one that you do on your upper hand, not the one that you do on the wrist.
So the one that's done on the upper arm, not the wrist, is what
the upper hand.
They recommend.
The Omron method. Okay.
Omron.
Omron. OMRON. Omron. Okay. So I said diabetes, high blood pressure. There are some conditions that we inherit from our parents. For example, some people have got polycystic kidneys. They've got their filters are not shaped properly, and they will end up like retaining some fluid in there, which stays in there sometimes, and you start having like cysts everywhere, and they get infected. Sometimes they bleed and things like that. So people like that are supposed to be also identified earlier. There's medicine now that can be given to people like that to contain the cysts so that they don't grow bigger. And yet, if it's left alone, they'll become so big that actually they can be 20 kilograms sometimes big. I've seen one which was 20 kilograms big.
20
the kidney. So imagine one is 20 and the other one is 20, then life becomes very, very difficult. Yes. And then that damages the kidney then because of either infections or the bleeding or everything else. Women, sometimes they will have recurrent urine infections.
Yes.
And sometimes that is hereditary as well. And you tend to sort of have the children or the families of those people, the daughters actually mostly for the women who have recurrent infections, to also be scanned to make sure that they don't have the same condition, so that they can be managed from an early age then, rather than wait for them to start having problems and then manage them. Okay. And the people with polycystic kidneys, like I was saying, with the cysts in their kidneys, they can also actually be managed early as well and be treated early as well, so that they don't have to go to dialysis prematurely or have complications prematurely. There are other conditions which are a bit more complicated, like Fabry's disease, like Alport syndrome, which are familiarly they're sort of found in families, and those have to also be, if somebody has got that, the family members, if they are having those problems, have to actually be screened and be treated as well. And then comes the when your own immune system attacks you. Remember, I was talking about the protein loss, that they are very much associated with protein loss. This is when we do biopsies and things like that to find out which exactly it is, so that we can treat it. So we do that sometimes as well. So there are a lot of chronic conditions. For example, people who just have a wound or infection, after infection, we end up with kidney disease. And they already say kidney disease is a condition of the older people, because I remember I said you are losing 1 ml a minute as you get older. So when you get very old and then you have a chest infection, it affects your kidneys a bit as well, because what you find is any acute infection can cause acute kidney injury sometimes, where your hydration is compromised because you're not drinking, because you are so unwell and you can't go to the fridge to get some water and things like that. You find that the kidneys get damaged even more. So people I've just mentioned with the conditions anyway, and with any chronic condition, and old people are very prone to the acute type, the sudden onset of kidney disease, because it causes hydration problems, and then you end up having kidney damage.
Wow.
For that reason, anyone who gets admitted into the acute services now through the emergency services, they always have a blood test when they get there, and they do another one to check on whether their kidneys are getting worse or not. Because when they looked at why people died in hospitals everywhere in the world, from the country that starts with A and Afghanistan or whatever it is, to, I know the last one is Zimbabwe, countries in the world, they did an audit and found that in every single country, that people who die in hospital are not always dying from what they went in for. They are dying from acute kidney injury, which is acute kidney disease, a sudden onset of kidney problems because of hydration problems.
So keep it hydrated.
Yes.
I'm always encouraging people to drink plenty of water, and being reminded again how much damage it can do to the body if you don't get your correct amount of hydration is a real, it's a real sharp reminder of why people need to do that. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just something to say. It really is important. So to hear that, studies around the world showed that people have actually died because they're not getting enough hydration, really drives home the point that, that your body needs water. Your body needs to be hydrated.
Yes, even at home. I remember accompanying my daughter's school, my daughter's class to an outing. They asked for parents to come. So the only day off I had to go with them. And I was amazed. It was in summer, the middle of summer. I was amazed at how many parents did not send their children with a bottle of water to drink in the sun. Luckily, the teacher who was with them was carrying buckets and buckets. And I'm thinking, you are going to have backache. And he said, if I don't, I'll bring these children all unwell because that's what happens. So it's just to remember that our bodies need water. Whatever the functions that happen in the water, in the body, the movements that happen in the body, whether it is oxygen, whether it is blood, it's actually because there's enough water in there.
Right.
If we don't have enough water in there, those things don't happen, and the person becomes very unwell.
And that's from childhood straight through to old age.
Everybody. Yes. So we just need to make sure that we're hydrated. But sometimes where I would say if somebody's got heart failure or somebody's got like their kidney function is quite low, they may retain fluid. So they need to work with their kidney units to make sure that they don't overload themselves, because that can also make them feel unwell. But anyone who is well, they tend to say, not for children, I don't have the calculations for children. The dietetic department tend to say, if you multiply your weight in kilograms by 30, you have a rough idea of how much you should have a day.
Is that in what units? Is that milliliters?
It will be in milliliters. Then you have to divide by 1,000 to make it like 3 liters or 2 liters or.
Right.
Yeah. So that is actually what causes kidney disease. Any chronic condition, plus people with diabetes, plus people with high blood pressure, plus people with any chronic condition, you can have kidney disease. And old people as well, they tend to have kidney disease because they are very prone to infections, like chests, whatever. They tend to have a lot of infections. But again, we always are very careful to compare what it was before. Is it stable? Is it not? If it's stable, then you can just manage them to make sure that it stays stable. If it's not stable, then are they well enough to go through the invasive treatments that the kidneys need? You have to look at that as well. But I always say, if you try to manage people, whoever comes into the practice, whoever patient comes to any service, if you look out for the kidneys too when you are doing your assessments, we won't have as many people as we have on dialysis, because if you detect kidney disease early and try to manage it early, yes, there will always be somebody who will go through and go and start dialysis, but it won't be as many as we send there. Nobody should go with a modifiable condition should go to start dialysis without anybody trying their best to slow it down or to stop it.
Now, you mentioned earlier about other factors influencing the reading of kidney function. So you mentioned that ethnicity. You talked about age affecting it, but you also mentioned about ethnicity. So how does ethnicity impact on kidney function?
It is believed that actually, like for example, the black people, we produce more creatinine because we are muscular than our other counterparts, and there's a number that you have to multiply by. After you've got whatever you get, you have to multiply that number by a certain number, which is not much. It's 1 point something, to actually then change it to be a GFR of a black person.
So what is creatinine?
Creatinine is the waste of muscle activity. As our muscles work and things like that, we actually give out creatinine.
So as the muscles, as you move around and your muscles are active, then you release a kind of waste product.
Yes. And it's only supposed to be within a level and not more than. I know in the QE, their labs, it was 60 to 120, but it depends on the lab that they are using. If they just look at what is my normal creatinine, the range, and then look at what their creatinine is, because it's reported, all that is reported on one page. But it differs sometimes with laboratories, depending on what they use, what type of assay they are using. Some go for this particular one, they favor the other one, and sometimes it can be like a 5 millimoles difference or something. I know, not very much, but it's nice to just get what that person should be. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Does that have I complicated it?
Well, there's a lot there that people need to know. I mean, and thank you for breaking that down and helping me and the listeners to understand what's going on, because I think it's important to know that the different things that do impact on, you know, your kidney function, and about prevention, and knowing the importance of having a urine test. Like, people might think, well, what, you know, I'm not diabetic, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, so why am I doing a urine sample? But that urine sample could be the difference between detecting that your kidneys are in trouble and preventing a whole lot of other complications or not. And I think people need to know that it's, you know, it's so important that, you know, when you're given your medication, as you said, that you take it, that you drink the correct amount of fluids per day to keep yourself healthy. These are all important things. And obviously things like hot weather would then affect it, because you sweat more, and so you need to drink more. So for people who are very active and going to the gym and sweating, or if it's a hot day and you're sweating for that reason, or if you're just a sweaty person, you might need to drink a bit more than the next person to keep yourself healthy. So no, those are really important things that people need to know.
And I must say, is also, Dee, for those who worry about why we take that many blood tests, because we do take a lot. We do. It's because the kidney itself does a lot. I was talking about blood pressure. The kidney maintains a normal blood pressure. I was talking about fluid as well. The kidney maintains that. I did mention a little bit about anemia. The kidney maintains that as well. Vitamin D, the kidney has got something to do in that as well. As pH, our body pH, which should be spot on. If it's not, then you start feeling unwell. The kidney does that as well. Getting rid of all the waste, you know, like each time I see the waste paper people, the bin men come round, that the kidneys do that. So the kidney is very, very busy. And for us to know how well it is doing, we have to take all those blood tests to check on how things are, so that at least we can actually manage them and actually ensure that you are as well as you can. You are as well as possible, so that you can go home and be who you are at home. If you are a mom, if you are a dad, if you are a sister, if you are a brother, you go and take up your role and get on with it and enjoy your quality of life. And that's why we do that.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that information with the listeners today. And yes, so this is the first of my talks with Pat. She's going to come back and give us further details about the kidneys. So thank you so much for sharing part 1, and I look forward to part 2, where we're going to look at signs and symptoms and how they diagnosed kidney disease. So thank you so much, Pat.
You're very welcome, Dee. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Diary of a Kidney Warrior podcast. And don't forget that you can contact me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter using the handle Diary of a Kidney Warrior. Please do subscribe to the podcast, and please do tell a friend. New episodes of this podcast are uploaded every other Monday. Until next time, take care and choose to live.
Diary of a Kidney Warrior, sharing faith, knowledge, hope, and love.